Coming up on iOS today, Rosemary Orchard and I show you how to collect notes and do all your research on iOS.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This podcast is supported by AT&T Active Armor. Cooking between meetings, helping with homework, or walking the dog, work from home is distracting already. And when you finally get down to work and focus, the phone rings and it's a fraud call. Don't let fraud calls disrupt your flow. AT&T makes your security a top priority, helping block fraud calls with AT&T Active Armor. It's not complicated. AT&T Active Armor, 24/7 proactive network security, fraud call blocking, and spam notifications to help stop threats at no extra charge. Compatible device and service required. Visit att.com/activearmor for details. And iOS Today is brought to you by Udacity. Udacity offers online education that is geared toward people looking to take their tech knowledge to the next level. Get the in-demand tech skills you need to advance your career. Visit udacity.com/twit to learn more. And by BetterHelp. Join more than 1 million people who have taken charge of their mental health. As a listener, you'll get 10% off your first month by visiting betterhelp.com/iOS. Whoa, hello, and welcome to iOS Today, the show where we talk all things iOS, iPadOS, tvOS, watchOS, HomePodOS. It's all of those OSs that Apple has on offer, and today we've got a great show planned for you. I am one of your hosts, Mikah Sargent.
And I am Rosemary Orchard. I'm still a little dizzy, Mikah, from the swipe across the screen there. It gets me every time. I don't know what's happening.
Like, oh man, just got to get prepared. Speaking of getting prepared, we have a great episode planned today about gathering notes and links and articles and research and all those things that you might need if you're working on a project, or maybe you just are looking for a way to make sure that you save for later those different things that you need access to. So you might be browsing the web, looking at articles, and you think, oh, I want to revisit this later. How do I go about, or where, when, and how can I come back to that? And there are lots of different tools available. So we thought we'd walk through some of the ones that are available sort of by default, and then some of the third-party options that Rosemary and I use. But it all starts in Safari.
Yeah, because I don't know about you, Mikah, but most of the time when I find these things, I'm browsing around the internet or Google for something, and then I find the link, right? And that's where you start. So you end up somewhere, I don't know, maybe there's a really great recipe for pizza or something, or you land on a super cool website, and then you just want to be able to save it for later. And so there are some solutions built straight into Safari, which can allow us to take advantage of this sort of thing. Of course, in Safari, don't forget, if you tap on the tab icon in the top right, you get a visual overview of all your tabs, which can be really useful for helping you recognize, oh, that's the one. It had that picture right at the top. But of course, what I can do from here is if I tap on the share sheet, then I can share this into all the things with my friends and my families. I could create bookmarks. I could have favorites. That's this little bar across the screen. If you enable that in settings, it's underneath the address bar. But I can also add something to my reading list. And the reading list will allow you to save articles offline automatically. I very deliberately went back and reset a bunch of things to get this pop-up to come up. So when you first try to save something to a reading list, it gives you the option to save it automatically offline or not. I always go with save automatically because it just means if your internet connection is a bit slow or something, you're going to have a copy of that. And it's also great for catching up with your list of things to read on, a plane or a train or in a car, where you might not have a great connection. You're visiting a great Aunt Martha for Christmas, perhaps, and she doesn't have home internet because, she doesn't believe in it or can't afford it, doesn't exist where she is, whatever. But then to get to your reading list, you need to tap on the little icon over on the left-hand side. It's a square with a little sort of bookmark icon on the left-hand side of it. And then from here, you can see your bookmarks, but you can also see your reading list. And you'll see a whole bunch of things in here that you may have saved before. And you can even do things like filter for just your unread ones, which is also useful if you are just using it as a kind of first in, first out, or first in, last out stack of things to read. And I have to say, reading list, it's one of those tools I don't use very often, but it's a pretty useful tool because it's just right there. And if somebody's asking, hey, can I just quickly save a bunch of links for later to read? Reading list is pretty much my default recommendation.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's interesting. I think because you and I had built up different tools that we used in different workflows to access those tools, that, Safari Reading List is kind of left in the dust. It's one that we don't use because there are other things that we've kind of collected and make use of. But as it stands as a default, and for most people, this does end up being a really good tool and quite a powerful tool that folks can take advantage of in order to save what they are, wanting to look at later. And yeah, it's quite nice that over time this gets it can become even more useful as you start to use it more than just sort of as a type of bookmarking tool, but its ability to sync across the different devices that you have so that you always have access to that list. And as you mentioned, the downloading for later feature, which is a really handy feature in case you're in a place with low or no signal. So yeah, Safari Reading List is one not to take lightly. And I think that it can also be something that folks who may have other tools can revisit from time to time just to see if it's something that they might want to use as it continues to be improved.
Yeah, the beauty of this, of course, is it's really simple. It is just a list of things, and you can remove things from your list as well. So when you finish with something on your list, it gets marked as read when you open it automatically from the list. So if I now filter for show unread, the twit bookmark is gone, but I can also swipe across on something to delete it, which of course gets rid of it. And there's an edit button too, so I can get rid of multiple things at the same time if I want to, and just clear out my stack really quickly. And of course, it's just always available wherever you are. And I think, there's a lot to be said for a feature that's just built in and is always there. And it's very simple. I know sometimes, Micah, I go a little crazy with my system, setting everything up, hundreds of tags, thousands of folders, lots of organization, zero work accomplished. It's definitely a problem with some of the fancier options. They're hopefully not with anything we've got today.
Yes. I was going to say the next on the list is still in Safari, and this is a more modern tool that's available, and one that Apple itself kind of showed off as a way to research and collect. So they, I believe, whenever they showed off the tool, which is called Safari Tab Groups, they showed it off as a person who was gathering information for an upcoming trip. And so you maybe, you're going on vacation or you're taking a trip for work, and you are starting to collect all of the information for that place, the places that you might want to go while you're there, where you need to get access to your tickets or your boarding passes or what have you. And all of those can be saved in Safari Tab Groups, which then can be accessed across devices. And so different people might use these Safari Tab Groups for different things. I'm curious, Rosemary, you as an automator may have some extra special tips for folks who are wanting to use Safari Tab Groups. But I certainly just use them as a way to kind of revisit different big topics, where I might have one for leading up to Thanksgiving. I had one for trying out some new recipes. I may have a knit and crochet tab group. I may have an upcoming trip to Catazula, which I don't even think is a real place, but anyway, and then all of the links that I need for there. So tell me about how you use Safari Tab Groups, if you do.
Well, I use tab groups periodically, and sometimes I forget they exist, and then I land in them and go, oh, right, that's that group of links that I was going to come back to later. So let's start with a little bit of an overview for people, because some people might not be quite sure what's happening. So in Safari, if you tap on that same little icon on the left-hand side that I mentioned earlier, then you can see at the top, for example, 23 tabs. That's, my currently open window. And don't forget on iOS as well, if you want multiple windows of Safari, you can just pick it up from your dock dock and drag it over to the left-hand side or the right-hand side, or you can hover it over and get something in slide over. But if you want a group of tabs, so say, for example, you've been researching things and you've got a whole bunch of tabs here, and you want to just save those so that they are grouped for later, then to start with, you tap on the plus button on the top left. And from here, you can create a new empty tab group, or you can create a new tab group from the tabs that you have open. And this is really useful. You know, you've been collecting things and you realize, oh, great, but I want to come back to this later, but I might not come back to it straight away. And I might want to be able to do something else with Safari in the meantime. The new tab group from your currently open tabs is really useful. And then once you've created a tab group, so I'll just create an empty tab group as a demo, then, you know, it appears over here on the left-hand side. I should warn people, if you create a tab group and then it has no tabs left in it, it will magically disappear. iOS is going to, you know, come along after you and clean that up after a little while if there's nothing in it. So at some point, if I didn't add anything to this, then it would disappear. If, on the other hand, I don't know, opened a search for best way to program Christmas lights, then I might be able to find something. It would be better if I could actually spell. That's always a bonus feature for these things. But there we go. There's a whole bunch of things here. So I might, you know, tap and hold, open a few of these in a new tab, or, and this is something that's really good, you can open it in a specific tab group. And this is great if you're Googling for something and you think, oh, right, I'm going to save this and I'm going to put this in my iOS today tab group. And then you jump straight into that tab group with that tab. This does work on macOS as well, I should say. And if I want to rename a tab, then I can tag group, I can tap and hold on it, and then I can just rename from there, which allows me to, you know, easily fix something like the typo with the S on the end of today's. But then if I just, you know, tap and hold, I can open things in the background and go through. And now these are all in this tab group. So if I switch back to my 23 tabs, it kind of looks like they're gone. And if I, you know, tap on this icon, there's not really a sign there's a tab group there. But if you tap on the icon on the left and you pop back to one of your tab groups, your other tabs appear briefly to disappear. And if I tap that icon on the left, now up in the top left, I can see next to this tab, you know, the sidebar for Safari icon, the word demo, which is the name of the tab group I'm in. If I go to iOS Today and hide, I get iOS Today. And then here's one I was using earlier, which apparently doesn't have any tabs in. That is incorrect. I am having some slight sync issues myself at the moment. I have 6 tabs in this tab group on another machine, but they appear to have disappeared right now. So that is perhaps something to be aware of, that these do appear to disappear every once in a while. They definitely should automatically disappear if they are empty, but that tab group I definitely was filling up earlier today while I was on lunch doing some research for things. And it's disappeared on me, Mikah. Oh, no. But tab groups, aside from today's blip, have been really stable for me. It's been great. I've created a group of tabs. And because it's a tab group, I can then open it on another device. So I can sit on the sofa nice and comfy doing some research on my iPad and then come back to my nice big iMac with a nice big screen and do, you know, more work here spread out. Or I can then take it on the go with my iPhone. And I will just show people on the iPhone, how do you access a tab group? So if you're in a web view somewhere, then you can tap on your tab icon in the bottom left. And then if you tap on where it says 9 tabs at the bottom, then you can see your different tabs here. And then I could go to a tab group. That one's still empty. I think something's gone wrong there. But then you've got all of these. Which is, you know, pretty useful. I will just go back to my regular tabs because that is, you know, that's the place that I usually live unless I'm specifically putting things in a tab group. But the ability to tap and hold a link and put it in a tab group, I'm loving that, Mikah. That is really useful.
Yeah, that's neat. Yeah, that's, I mean, as I said, I've got 4 here. One called Basics, one called Clockwise, one called Homebridge, and one called My Time at Porsche, which was the game that I had shown quite a while back. And each of those, if I tap on them, they open up these different sections. Homebridge had, because I was on a little bit of a Homebridge kick on wanting to update some of my plugins and add new ones. For folks who don't know, Homebridge is a way to add non-HomeKit devices to your HomeKit home. And so I was kind of going through and trying to discover new ones that I could take advantage of. And so I had, 15, 20 tabs open. And so sometimes you just look and you're like, oh, I want to get some of these tabs saved. and revisit those later. And so now I can tap on Homebridge. It pops open those tabs that I had before, and I can access those. So I think that the first two that we kind of talked about are a good first step for starting to gather your research as you are, you may have to step away and go do something. You come back and you start to look through those different tabs, those links that you gathered before you take it to the next step of actually saving them and making it part of the project or the research or whatever it happens to be that you're doing. This is a good way to sort of put a pause on the research, come back later and make sure that it's all still there. I think... well, maybe not. I don't think we're ready to take a break quite yet, but we will shortly. The next one I want to talk about is, I think, actually the next two are... These ones are ones that I think a lot of people are going to be familiar with in terms of their name. And they are ways for you to save your information for later. And it starts by taking a link and putting it in your pocket.
Yeah. I personally use a service called Pocket. Oh, yes, Mikah, you absolutely nailed that one. And Pocket is a great way, and it's been around for a really long time, a great way to save links and things and then download them offline for later. So before reading lists existed in Safari, there were a little pair of apps out there. We're going to talk about the other one as well. But Pocket was one of them. And Pocket is one that I have used on and off over the years, and I keep coming back to because it's an oldie but a goodie. It appears in your share sheet, so you can share articles to it. You can email articles to it. You can hook things up so that if you star things in certain services, they automatically get sent to Pocket. Or you favorite a tweet and that gets put into Pocket, and all sorts of things. And I just love the fact that it does this. And of course, it does have a reading-like view. That's something we forgot to mention about Safari's reading list. When you open something from that, it will try to suggest a reader view if the content is suitable for that, which means that you end up with a minimized view of these things. So I have a list of my articles in Pocket, and some people prefer the tile view, so you can have a pretty tile view of all of your things. But something I'm sure people will be looking for if they're thinking, well, Safari reading list isn't cutting it for me, is tags, and Pocket supports tags. And I have to say, tags are great because I've got a bunch of things here which are tagged iOS Today. And this means, I've read through them, I've been aware of them, and then after the show, I can easily go in, find those and delete them, and they're gone. But other things like, for example, this post from Brett Terpstra, that's something I'm going to come back to later because that is something that I want to, read more in depth. And Pocket's just been around for ages. It's great. It works. I love it.
Yep. That's how I feel about Pocket as well. It's kind of a trusty thing that I always come back to. And then I see all of the links that I still have saved in there. And I go, oh no, what have I done? How have I not gotten to these?
I see, Mikey. You need the same automation that I've got, which is mine's specific for iOS Today news. After the iOS Today stuff has been in Pocket for 10 days, I have a system go in and just nuke it. And it just pulls it out and goes, junk, done. Because that way, if I forget to delete it myself, well, I've got a little automation coming along behind me. It's kind of like parents go around after kids closing the kitchen doors after the kids have pulled open all the doors. I've got a little system set up where that goes in. I should mention, actually, Safari Reading List and Pocket both have shortcuts actions, which can make saving things to them really easy. Unfortunately, tab groups haven't yet made it into shortcuts, but I'm hoping the team is working on that. They are a brand new feature, and I have a feeling they had plenty on their plate this year with shipping shortcuts for Mac.
Indeed. All right, we're going to take a quick break before we come back with a few more ways to save your items for later. But I want to tell you that this podcast is supported by AT&T Active Armor. Cooking between meetings, helping with homework, or walking the dog, work from home is distracting enough already. And when you finally get down to work and focus, the phone rings and it's a fraud call. How annoying is it whenever you are in the middle of playing a game or watching something or in the middle of a conference call, and then suddenly you get a fraud call, and you of course take the moment to go, oh, someone's calling me. Oh, I should probably, and then you see it's someone who you don't want to talk to because it's a fraud call. And it's just so frustrating. Don't let fraud calls disrupt your flow. AT&T makes your security a top priority, helping block fraud calls with AT&T Active Armor. It's not complicated. AT&T Active Armor, 24/7 proactive network security, fraud call blocking, and spam notifications to help stop threats at no extra charge. Compatible device and service required. Visit att.com/activearmor for details. And of course, thank you to AT&T Active Armor for sponsoring this week's episode of iOS Today. All right. The next one on the list is another oldie but a goodie. It's Instapaper, which is kind of a steadfast and long-lived method for storing your files. It works a lot like Pocket. Pocket and Instapaper both have had lots of iterations, lots of different ways that they've been set up. I just clicked on my Instapaper, and I've got links there as well. The last one I have is from 2 years ago, though, so don't worry. I think I can let all of these ones go. But it looks like I had some different integrations set up to where things would automatically be moved to my Instapaper whenever they came from other places. So, for example, as a person who regularly installs new versions of iOS, watchOS, tvOS, etc., the betas, I had it was probably an IFTTT, an if this then that note or automation that would, when something got published to developer.apple.com/news, it would automatically be added to my Instapaper queue. So I could go in and read it to make sure that I knew the release notes of what was going to be coming to my watch, my phone, etc. So this is, again, another place to gather different links. Instapaper has a method for not just adding links, but you can also sort among videos. You can add notes to it. And then it also has a browse feature, which lets you kind of see some other very popular content that folks have saved, which I always ended up liking, being able to know how what other people were saving, not drilling in to be like, this person is saving this, this, and this, but a like popularity ranking of the article. And then I also liked that it had the ability to let you read something, and it would tell you how long it would take. I couldn't get to that for some reason, but yes, it would tell you how long it would take to read through something. So you could quickly kind of go, oh, I can get through these next 3 articles in this 10-minute break I have before I move on. That's kind of nice. And then there's a premium version as well. For $3 a month, you get you can search all of the different things you have saved in Instapaper. You get unlimited notes, and then you also get an ad-free experience. So they will take out the ads. Now, I'm curious, Rosemary, I assume, well, I shouldn't assume. Do you use Pocket and Instapaper together? Have you used Instapaper in the past? What has you using Pocket over Instapaper? Sounds like the shortcuts support. It's one of the things.
A little bit of the shortcut support. I found Pocket's just a bit better for the system I have set up, which we'll talk about a bit later. But with saving things for iOS Today, for the news and so on, I have a whole bunch of automations set up so that I can easily grab those with minimal effort, and they land in Pocket. They land in a nice list so that, they're all in our show notes and everything. And that I've just found easier to set up with Pocket. It is pretty much the same thing to set it up with Instapaper. It's just a question of, at this point in time, I'm using Pocket. Maybe in 6 months, I'll be using Instapaper again. I do tend to flip back and forth between the two, though I'm pretty good at exporting everything and deleting it from the old system and importing it into whichever one I'm going to next. They are pretty much parallel. Some of the features you mentioned, estimated reading time and so on, they're available in Pocket too. So it's just a question of which one you like. Or if you're paying for the premium service, Instapaper is a little bit cheaper. I think it's $2.99 a month versus Pocket's $3.99 a month.
Gotcha. Now it's time to talk about a few other options that are, again, similar. There are also ways to save links, but what I like about these next ones is that, actually, let me do Check Later first, because Check Later is not as powerful as the one that I'll talk about in a moment. Check Later is another save option. It's another way to save things to as you guessed it, check later. It is a very simple app. And in fact, it is able to be, you can download it for free from the App Store. And then what happens is you can, if you choose, you can give the developer a tip. Check later is just what it sounds like. When you are in Safari, when you're on a different, wherever you happen to be, you hit the share sheet and you choose save to check later, which is kind of a nice sentence, save to check later. And then it will show up in your queue. Now, this can sync across different devices so that you are able to have an ongoing queue of different things. So you can see here, I've got a link from Reddit. I've got... I was wondering a question about mirroring between the Oculus and a device like the computer. So I've got that saved there. And all this is just a list of links. It's a lot like Reader in that way. You just have these different links here. And whenever you tap on them, then you can access that link. So it'll pop up in the in-app browser, or you can set it to actually launch in Safari itself. And then it'll just go to that page. So this is a very, very, very simple app. I know I said it 100 times, but it's incredibly simple as just a way to save lists. There's not even the ability to set different folders or anything like that. It's just a way to save a list of links that you then access later, and then you can swipe to remove them. So if you don't need the power of Instapaper, the power of Pocket, and you just want something that quickly saves links at a place where you've got like a list of links, Check Later is great. It works on the Mac. There's a Mac app. It works on iOS, iPadOS. It works across different devices, and it's just a list of links that you click on whenever you're ready, and then you can delete from your queue. So that is a very simple thing to check out if you'd like. Now, the other one that I wanted to talk about, and it's one that I had talked to Rosemary about in the past, is basically what had happened was I found myself, and I still do this from time to time because there is occasionally there are times whenever I just want it here. I have an ongoing messages conversation with myself. Yes, I talk to myself, where I will send myself photos and links and documents, etc. And that's because it syncs across my different devices. So it's on iOS, it's on iPadOS, it's on the Mac. And at any time I can tap on my little profile photo and see the different links that I have saved there, the different images I have saved there, and make use of those. But I was looking for a way to, especially with documents, a better place to sort of keep these links together and be able to access them at any time. And I wanted a thing that was cross-platform. And what I came across was Keep It. Keep It is it's a lot like Pocket. It's a lot like Instapaper. However, it does get a little bit more powerful than those two, because not only can you save files, but you can also, or not only can you save links, but you can also save files. You can make every single one of the links that you pop into it either a PDF or what they call a web archive document, which will basically load the HTML or load the website without actually being online. So that's a really handy feature where I can tap to share a link, and then it says, do you want to save for offline? And then there are two ways to save for offline, as a PDF or as this kind of whole encompassed HTML document that's able to be accessed. There are lots of different organizational features. You can set it up for you can set different files, you can set different categories, you can set favorites, and as you share from Safari or wherever into this document or into this app, you have the ability to then sort those files as you want them, sort those images as you want them, sort the links as you want them. If I tap down at the bottom, you can see there's a tag option where you can see the different tags that I have. There's a list option, which lets you change how the list is sorted, sort items by when they were added, search functionality. So you can say, this is what I want you to search, how I want you to search it, show the number of items, which I'll turn on for now, a preview, and you can change how much is shown in that preview, the size of the file, the date, the summary, a thumbnail, You can use the comments as a summary if you've added comments. Always show kind, which I like because that will show you the type of file that it is, if it's a web link, for example. If I hit that plus sign, you'll see the different options I have here. This is what I like about Keep It as well, is that it has the built-in tools that iOS has available. So the first option says scan documents. That is a built-in function of iOS where it will pop up the ability to scan in a document and be able to drop that right into your list of things. You can pull from the photo library. You can take a photo or a video. You can set up rich text file, a plain text file, a markdown file, add a web link, or add files. If you choose manage stationery, you can see these are the different types of what they call stationery: a markdown file, a plain text file, a rich text file. And then you can set it as active or not. By default, I just choose to add a note. I think I'm going to change that actually to markdown though. And then I can choose done. And so then if I were to add a markdown file, then you can see here's my markdown file. So I'd say iOS today notes, and then we'll do Safari reading list, Safari, tab, groups, pocket, and Instapaper. And then you'll notice in the top right, I've got the ability to immediately preview that in its final form. For folks who don't know, Markdown is sort of a shorthand way to add formatting to a list or to a document. So I'm not going to go into detail about it, but it is a way to kind of keep your hands on the keyboard instead of having to highlight things and change the formatting. You kind of get to keep typing and work through the document as you want to. From there, I can save this to a folder or add it to a bundle, change the label on the document. I can choose show in, which will, if you've got different categories, then you can change where that shows. Star it. I can I can share this document from here in the different ways that you would. You'll notice there's an encrypt option here. You can add people. So it's got the built-in sharing functionality that comes with iCloud. Save it as stationary, which basically means I want to turn this into a formatted document. So say you constantly take notes in the same way where you've got a date at the top and then you've got 3 subheadings. You could set that up and then save that as a piece of stationery called My Note. And then every time you'd be able to get access to that. You can show the word count. This is a very powerful tool that is available to you. And it has everything. Let's call this iOS. I don't know why it's making me capitalize. There we go. Nope. There we go. iOS today, note, and we'll just call it that. I could add some tags if I wanted to, the source, the comments. I'm going to leave it in the main thing, and we can see that it's called, I'm going to, new markdown.md, but I think that'll change once I change the name of it. And then let's go to show word count. So then it'll pop up and show, okay, there are 12 words, 91 characters, 6 sentences, 6 paragraphs. Very, very powerful tool that has all of the stuff that you might need to save your files, your images, your documents all in one place. So that is Check Later and Keep It Mobile. Check Later is available for free, as I said, with an in-app purchase to give you access to tips. So not even really give you any extra access. It's just hey, this is a really nice thing that you've made, and I want to acknowledge that. And so you're able to do that by giving the developer a tip. And then there are in-app purchases. Keep It Mobile, $1.49, I believe, a month, $9.99 a year, if I remember correctly there, which will give you the ability to add some of the extra features. I'm looking because I can't quite remember what the extra features are. It might be syncing across different devices that you get. And then the one thing that I will say that's kind of important for people to know is that unlike many apps that you'll find where they are available on iOS, iPadOS, and on the Mac, there are two versions of this. So there's Keep It for the Mac, and then there's Keep It for iPad and iPhone. So you will have to get them separately. The app for the Mac, I believe, does cost. And it is, oh golly, I can't remember now how much the Mac version is, but I ended up buying the Mac version and getting the iOS and iPadOS version simply because I use them across all of my different devices. So, it looks like it is free with in-app purchases as well. So
yes, and I believe it's $49.99 by the looks of it for the Mac version, unless you have a previous version of it.
Yep, there it is. So yes, you can get it that way. Those are kind of my two other methods of collecting and keeping notes. In a moment, we'll hear about Rosemary's kind of favoritist app for storing documents and accessing those. But we do want to take a quick break before we come back with that. I want to tell you about Udacity. Udacity offers you an online education program that is geared toward people looking to take their tech knowledge to the next level, which I imagine is all of you out there. You're watching this show, you want to take your tech knowledge to the next level. Udacity has specialized in exciting content that can help take you further in the career you want, and they offer the latest cutting-edge nano degree programs you can't find anywhere else. Udacity is here to encourage your career growth. In fact, they want to provide you with information about the career you want and then give you the skills for that career. And after that, they'll help you get the job. In fact, one Udacity graduate had lost his job at a local Nigerian airline due to COVID-19. And so he decided to turn things around for himself. He applied for the Machine Learning Scholarship Program from Microsoft Azure. And get this, within just 6 months of receiving the scholarship, he transitioned into a career as a data analyst. So cool. You can check out one of Udacity's top 5 nanodegree programs, including data engineering, product manager, data analyst, data scientist, and programming for data science with Python. If you're looking to get into the most cutting-edge technology careers, you can get nanodegree programs in AI, in flying car and autonomous flight engineer, in machine learning engineer, and more. Udacity's courses are created with partners and industry leaders in Microsoft, Google, IBM, AWS, and more. And the best part is I think this is amazing. They select team leads at top companies to be the instructors. You're going to get the right knowledge from the experts who are working in that field every day. When signing up for a nanodegree program with Udacity, you can expect courses to be project-based with active learning that lets you test your knowledge, homework and projects that will be reviewed by qualified professionals, real human feedback, which you don't get in many places, and reviews with access to mentors 24/7, and flexible schedules where you can choose what works for you, whether it's 5 to 10 hours a week. It's at your own pace, and you can graduate in as little as 3 months. 110 Blacks in Technology and Udacity have teamed up to offer part-time online tech scholarships for Black Americans who don't have a 4-year degree. They are offering 2,000 full scholarships for qualified applicants. All you do is apply today at udacity.com. Just scroll to the bottom of the webpage and select scholarships under the category resources. You can also upskill your entire workforce with Udacity. Check out the enterprise section of Udacity's website today to learn more. Get the in-demand tech skills you need to advance your career. Visit udacity.com/twit to learn more. That's udacity.com/twit. Thanks so much to Udacity for sponsoring this week's episode of iOS Today. Let's head back in with DEVONthink. I don't know what does Devon stand for? I imagine it stands for something. It's in all caps. Does it stand for something?
I don't know, actually. You put me on the spot there, Mikah. You're asking me a complicated question that I don't know the answer to. Oh, no. So DEVONthink is from a lovely company called Devon Technologies. They also make some other applications as well, such as Devon Agent and Devon Sphere, which are also related to web and connecting things and data storage, etc. And DEVONthink, I have to say, has been one of my apps that I've kind of just used for years without really thinking about it, because it is the sort of thing that you can just throw a bunch of data into and you can come back to it later, and search is always going to find what you need, even if you did a terrible job of organizing things. because that is one of my major failings. I'm really good at collecting a whole bunch of stuff. And then it comes to actually naming and organizing some of the things. And I don't know about you, Mikah, but sometimes I'm just like, good enough. Like, there's stuff in there, I'll find it. And if I don't have good search, I'm not going to find it, which is kind of, a problem when you're being asked questions like, what does the Devon in DEVONthink stand for? And you don't actually know the answer. And I've just had a quick look on their page and I'm not seeing any obvious thing. Yes. Anyway, let's move on. So DEVONthink, if people listening and watching are familiar with Finder on the Mac, has a lot of similarities with that. It is essentially a really good system for storing and managing documents, notes, bookmarks, etc. And you have databases. So if I tap back, then I've got a whole bunch of databases here. Most of these are somewhat out of date. And I created a demo database for today. But if I tap on the plus, then I get the option to just add data, essentially. So I can add text. And if I write it in Markdown or something, then I can save that as Markdown, or I can save it as rich text, etc. You've got all the options. You've got media, where you can do things like add your last photo taken, video notes, voice notes, take new photos, bookmarks, obviously, for websites, and so on and so forth. But of course, it also works through the share sheet. So if I pop back to Safari and I pop down, it turns out, Mikah, I just needed to wait a little bit longer, and voila. The tab group that went missing from Safari earlier, it's back and it's right here. So if I wanted to go ahead and save this page, which is a really useful page that I'm going to be coming back to because I'm playing with Home Assistant and some home automation stuff there at the moment, then I can clip something to DEVONthink, and just like you have with Keep It, I've got the option to save it as a web archive. And web archives, for people who didn't maybe listen to the section on Keep It because they went, I don't know, I don't care about that so much. It's just a form of a saved form of your web page. And what DEVONthink does is it will try to reload the web page for you as well. If it's still online, so it'll try and pull down new content, which is quite nice. But I can save it as a PDF, and I usually tend to save these things as PDFs just because I like having them in PDF form. That way, nothing's going to change. Something might go a bit silly with some styling at some point. No, PDFs are just always good. And now, if I pop back over into DEVONthink and I cancel out of this, I actually have an inbox. And everything goes into your inbox to start with. And in your settings, you can actually say whether or not you want to unify your inboxes. And if you unify your inboxes, then you've got, an inbox per database, which is quite nice. But then, I've got my data, it's saved in here. So if I pop into demo now, I've got, my inbox, and I've got two things saved. And this is, these are the pieces of data that I needed. And what I like is, as well as, the actual just individual files, I can also go ahead and add tags. I can add flags, star ratings. I can add a note to a file, all kinds of crazy things. And I can go super nerdy and super crazy with this. Or I also have just a database, which is just full of like bank statements and receipts and manuals for things as well, because it's really great for just dumping those reference documents that you need in there for later, so that when you want to come back to them, you've got them. Because let's face it, who actually knows where the manual for their fridge is? I'm pretty certain almost nobody listening and watching knows where the manual for their fridge is. But if something went wrong with your fridge, then you might want to find out, what does this sequence of beeps mean? Or which kind of light bulb does this use anyway? Is it using a standard fridge light bulb, or how do I change it? That's the kind of manual I check in DEVONthink, because then I can type it in. Even if I don't remember the brand of the fridge, I can type in fridge. I'm going to find it. Nice. And that is where super powerful search really makes it much better, because it's perfect for just, grouping a whole bunch of things together. One thing I should note, which I didn't mention before, is if you think of a database as kind of like a folder, but you would like folders inside of that in DEVONthink, those are called groups. So you can create a group inside of a folder. And then, you've got all the same powers of everything else right there. But that is really helpful when you're trying to group a bunch of data together, or, create a folder. And combined with tags, it's incredibly powerful if you want to go ahead and organize things, or you can be like me and just throw things in there and let it deal with the data for you, which is pretty nice. It does a very good job of that. The Mac version of this, again, is separate, just like Keep It's, but the Mac version has some automation in there for filing things if you wanted to set that sort of thing up. Other than that, it's a free app to download, and $1.99 a month or $14.99 a year, or there's a lifetime purchase for the year, for the for the version 3, which is $29.99 for that. So 2 years essentially of the in-app purchase, but you get a lifetime license for version 3, which is what I went with because I love this app and it's really good for me.
All right. Then a couple of RSS readers, because for folks who are listening to this show, if you are listening in your app, your podcast app of choice, you may or may not know that that's coming to you via an RSS feed. An RSS feed, it's sort of like what we've shown you earlier. It's a list of links and information that tells a specialized app, like a podcast app, that there's a new file available to download, and it tells the app what they need to know about that file. So it has the title of the podcast, it has the description, it's got a bunch of different information in it that the app then displays for you so you can see what this podcast is about. With that, there are also a lot of sites on the internet that will provide an RSS feed of the articles that they post. So along with you being able to go to the website, say 9to5mac.com, you can also, without having to do the work, get those articles sent to you. It's a little bit like having a newspaper subscription, where instead of having to go and find the news, it comes to you in your app of choice. And so with these apps, this is a great way, particularly if you are doing news gathering, if you are, I like to use RSS to get different new studies that are available in different science fields that are of interest to me, so that I can always stay up on kind of what different researchers have discovered in sleep science and in a few other places. And that makes it so that I don't have to remember, I need to go to this website and look through this long list of things, or look through these many pages, or the scroll jacking, or whatever it happens to be with the website. Those things just come to me directly. So, Rosemary, you've included NetNewsWire, which sort of recently got a revamp. It's beautiful and new. And then Reader, which I know was and continues to be my favorite RSS reader outside of Google Reader. Rest in peace.
Yes. Sadly, Google Reader went the way of the dodo, as some Google services are wont to do at inconvenient points in time for us users. But NetNewsWire for me has been the app that I've been using for a really, really, really long time. I genuinely don't remember when I actually started using NetNewsWire again recently, but it was originally the gold standard of RSS readers for the Mac. And it was created by a lovely person called Brent Simmons, and he sold it, and it made its way home a few years ago. And Brent Simmons now owns it again, and he's made it open source and written a whole new app for Mac and iOS, which means that, the brand new app is a full Mac app, but also, if you were interested in learning to code and you wanted to go and join in and find out about how they're writing this, then you can actually go to the GitHub repo and have a play around with the code yourself and compile it and play with all those things. But what I use RSS for is this show every single week. As the week goes on, I have a whole bunch of articles. I use Feedbin as my syncing system. And then as I start things in Feedbin, that creates an RSS feed itself, which I can use to get all the links to put into the show document, which then, of course, get turned into our show notes with some lovely work hard work from the lovely people behind the scenes, making everything happen. But essentially what it just allows me to do, I've turned on my iPad set of feeds, which I just leave set up with some default ones. I can just go through and I can look at all of the unread items. By tapping and holding, I can say, mark all the ones above this as red, or mark all the ones below this as red. Or I can just go to that feed. And of course, I can mark all the things from that feed as red. So if somebody's been posting way too much, then I can just go, okay, thank you. That's enough from you. Bye-bye. But, it has the ability to filter for read and unread, which seems like a really basic thing, but not all apps are great at doing that. And I like the Smart Today option, which is just anything that was posted today, I can go through and actually have a look at. But I do use RSS day in, day out. It is an old technology, but it's a good technology. If you've got a WordPress blog or you know somebody with a WordPress site, if you put a feed at the end of the URL after the slash, then that's an RSS feed right there. So a lot of websites have got it, even if they don't advertise it. And it is quite nice to know that I can open one app and I get the updates from everywhere, from iMore, from Twitter accounts, from YouTube videos, from podcasts, and everything else. And it all just pops up in one app on my device, and I don't have to go looking for things. And of course, I've got a lovely reader view of any articles that I'm wanting to read. I've got a simplified view over here on the right-hand side where I can just see the article with no other styling. It's simple and it's less distracting that way.
Yes, very nice. Reader 5, I'm trying to think. There are so many different ones. There are lots of different RSS readers out there. It's all about finding the one that works the best for you. Reader has gone through many an iteration. It works on the Mac, on iOS, on iPadOS. It will save links and it will display. It will do its best to, if sometimes they have truncated feeds, meaning that they don't show the whole thing, it will go and grab as much as it can. As Anthony mentioned in Discord, there's Feedly as well. Lots of different options that are available out there. So just find the one that works for you. And I think you'll be happy with an RSS reader if that's your kind of thing. Again, it's really handy for not having to go to the different pages and grab things. Although there are a website that does try to get you to go to the page because it's true that makes them more money. So that's why it can be kind of difficult to get a good RSS reader that will truly provide you with what you're looking for, because sometimes they do have that issue. Two final mentions here. Rosemary, you can give us a quick or an overview of Obsidian. I'll quickly mention Notion. We've talked a lot about Notion when Leo was my co-host, because Leo and I both used Notion as our way of planning this show. Notion is sort of it's a canvas on which a canvas, or maybe a series of canvases on which you place different types of information. So you can kind of imagine it as this sort of whiteboard that you can put all sorts of tables and links and images and all that kind of stuff into, and then be able to access that information in a really clever way. So it's a data at its core. It's a database app, but it does its best to not make you think of it as a database app. So it doesn't seem kind of overwhelming or kind of too powerful. It makes it very easy to categorize information and store information in the app to be able to use and get access to later as you want to. I have a Notion page that is for knitting and crocheting, and on it I've got patterns and I've got links to help me remember what I'm trying to get to, or what different techniques are. And as I said, we used to plan, Leo and I, this show in a Notion document, and so it has a bunch of different charts for every individual episode, which then had the links and all of that kind of stuff plugged right in there. Notion continues to grow and become, it's a tool in corporate America as much as it is in individual America, I guess. I've also got my dog's records in there. It's a great way to keep track of those kinds of things. So dates of vaccinations, their weights over time, their scans of their vaccinations and their health reports, et cetera, et cetera. So that's Notion. It's available for free to download, but it does have a subscription if you want to add a bunch of users to kind of collaborate on documents and those kinds of things. But tell us about Obsidian, Rosemary, which is kind of a very interesting wiki builder almost, but it's similar to Notion.
Yeah, it is. So whereas Notion is on the internet, and so essentially whenever you're getting data into or out of Notion, you pretty much need to be online. They are working on offline support, but the data is in the cloud. Obsidian works with the data being on your local device and then being synced from device to device to device. And Obsidian is actually free, and if you use iCloud Sync, then it's free to sync as well. Or they have an Obsidian sync engine, which I believe is $5 a month if you wanted to use that. But essentially what Obsidian is it's a folder of Markdown files with plugins on top of that, which you can install and find whatever you want to basically make this application into any application you like. They have a system for linking notes where you've got the Obsidian brain. So for people who are listening at home, you've got, an interconnected series of bubbles with lines going between them, showing you connections from this note to that note and all of the other notes all over the place. But because it's Markdown files, it is essentially text that you can just write, and it's got some smarts in it. So if you start typing, for example, a hash, then it will autocomplete and things like that. And it does have, full Markdown support. So I've got a note here in Obsidian that I was adding some things to earlier, of how I'm planning on doing some home automation things. And this is the text view that I've written in. But if I swap over to the preview, then it's rendered nicely so that I can do that. I can see this as it is, and then if I tap on the options on the side, then I could see if I had any links or any mentions in this document, they would be here. I get the option to go ahead and share this file or view the sync version history because maybe something got changed at some point, and I'd like to know when that happened. Or I can see backlinks, etc. There's a lot going on, and you can get a little bit crazy with this stuff as well if you like. So I have not this one. This one, if I was looking at this on a Mac, it would have a fabulous table built into it. But that plugin, unfortunately, it looks like is not yet ready for prime time on iOS. It's a third-party plugin that I'm using, but it collects a whole bunch of notes together with all of the data into a table. And that is incredibly useful for things like I've got a bunch of data and I want to be able to just save it and write stuff and then view it later and find it with search. So if you find that maybe you're doing more creating of text, or you're just collecting a bunch of links together, something like Obsidian might well be the tool that you're looking for. And it is free to download and free to use with iCloud Sync. So that makes it a very attractive offer for a lot of people, I believe. People who look at it might go, "Oh, this doesn't necessarily look like an iOS application." It is the same application as you get on the Mac and Windows and Linux and Android, pretty much, which has certain advantages. It doesn't necessarily feel like a native iOS app all the time, but I have to say, it works incredibly well. I'm really pleased with it, and I find myself using it a lot on a little iPad mini. I don't even use it. Well, I do use it on my 12.9-inch iPad Pro with the Magic Keyboard and trackpad, but it works just as well on the mini. It's great.
Nice. I have Obsidian on my Mac, and I plan on hopping in and making use of it soon. I've started to set things up. I really like the idea of having sort of a personal wiki that I can get to different things and collect different ideas and have them all linked together. We're going to take a quick break before we come back with the rest of the show. I do want to tell you, I'm so pumped to have them as a sponsor on the network. This episode of iOS Today is brought to you by BetterHelp. Is something preventing you from achieving your goals? What interferes with your happiness? Well, you can check out betterhelp.com/iOS for some help with those things. BetterHelp it's super cool. So I went to the website and created an account, and it asks you some information about yourself. And then it has those standard questions. If you've ever if you've ever had a help for mental health concerns or gone to a psychologist, a psychiatrist, then you will be familiar with the questions that are there. You fill out those questions. It's sort of that standard survey. You answer some questions about yourself, including your relationship status, your religious nature, I guess is the best way to put it. And all of this is used to help find you a therapist who can work with you directly and correctly, I guess is the best way to say it. So, fill out these different questions. Yes, no, yes, 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 no, yes, etc. And then at the end, it kind of has some more information you can type in if you want to. And then that information gets put out there, and therapists look and see, could I help this person? Could I help this person? Could I help this person? And that way, a therapist that feels like they can help you directly are able to help you. So I got matched with someone. And, this is one of the things you're always kind of nervous going into this. Is this person going to be right for me? It often takes a lot of time to audition different therapists to find the one that works for you. And that was something that BetterHelp, kind of takes care of at the get-go. And got matched with this therapist, had our first chat. And one of the first things she started talking about was quantum physics and its tie to therapy. And I was like, this is a match made in heaven. You start talking about quantum physics with me, this nerd, and you are like right on my level. So I found somebody who just gelled so perfectly with me and, had this great conversation, and it was awesome. BetterHelp is going to assess your needs and match you with your own licensed professional therapist. Yes, licensed professional therapist. You can connect in a safe and private online environment. It's so convenient, and you can start communicating in under 48 hours. Mine took less than 48 hours to find the therapist for me. It's not a crisis line. It's not self-help or anything like that. It is professional counseling done securely online. You can send a message to your counselor at any time. So I've got a page where I can go and type in a message to my therapist if I want to ask a question or do something like that. And then you'll get timely and thoughtful responses. Plus, you can schedule weekly video or phone sessions, all without ever having to sit in an uncomfortable waiting room. Yeah, that's super nice. So I go on, I choose a date, I see the times that she's available, I select that, and I have those video sessions. But in between there, if something were to come up, or if I just kind of, we talked about X, Y, or Z, I can't remember what this was, could you help me out? Then she could send me information about that. Or if I am having a rough go of things at a particular time and need assistance, then I could, or need to talk to her, then I could send her a message and hear back from her whenever she's next on. BetterHelp is committed to facilitating great therapeutic matches, so they make it easy and free to change counselors if needed. That's a big thing. You may not have one that matches with you. Maybe your therapist starts talking about quantum physics and you're like, not for me, thanks, bye. It can be kind of hard to find somebody else. Not with BetterHelp. With BetterHelp, it's very easy. It's free. It's easy. It's more affordable than traditional offline counseling. And we should mention financial aid is available. The service is available for clients worldwide, and you can find the particular expertise you need online, so you don't have to limit yourself to the counselors located near you. You'll find licensed professional counselors who are specialized in depression, stress, anxiety, relationships, sleeping, trauma, anger, family conflicts, LGBTQ matters, grief, self-esteem. Anything you share is confidential, convenient, professional, and affordable. You can check out the testimonials posted daily on their site, or you can check out the testimonial I just gave. In fact, so many people have been using BetterHelp that they are recruiting additional counselors in all 50 states. We want you to start living a happier life today. As a listener, you're going to get 10% off your first month by visiting our sponsor at betterhelp.com/iOS. Join more than 1 million people who have taken charge of their mental health. Again, that's BetterHelp, HELP.com/iOS. BetterHelp. Thank you to BetterHelp for sponsoring this week's episode of iOS Today. We absolutely appreciate it and so glad to have you on the network. All right, we don't have much time left, so we're going to cover a few news stories. We'll get to Shortcuts Corner, our feedback, and round things out with our app caps. The 2-3 news stories I wanted to talk about. Well, first of all, Apple Podcasts has provided a list of the best podcasts of 2021. At the top of the list, iOS Today. Oh, wait. Just in our hearts.
I think they messed up there, Micah. They've clearly, judged us wrong. iOS Today should have been right at the top, along with all the other great Twit shows. But, if you're looking for something else to listen to and you think, I'm enjoying the Twit podcast, maybe there's something else that's different out there. Well, there's some great recommendations in this list. I'd highly recommend going and having a look and downloading some and giving them a whirl. There's some really good stuff in here. I've definitely got some things now on my listening list that I didn't have before.
I think the best show of the year sounds very interesting. It's called A Slight Change of Plans.
Yes.
And it says the host is a cognitive scientist who's no stranger to big, heartbreaking change and helps listeners process their own experiences of change through vulnerable, mind-expanding conversations with engaging guests. This sounds fascinating. I am definitely going to have to check out this one for sure. Some big names that you may or may not be familiar with on that show. So that's just one, though. There are lots of different options here. There's Newcomer of the Year and just shows of the year in general. So lots to check out there that you can see, including episodes of the year. And then, of course, the charts. So which ones have the most subscriptions, which ones are, the most downloaded across new shows and then channels. So lots of different ways to kind of break things down and see what are the best or most downloaded shows of the year. Apple has also announced its third annual Apple Music Award winners. So you can check out The Weeknd, who got Global Artist of the Year. Congratulations. Breakthrough Artist of the Year, Album of the Year, and Song of the Year all go to Olivia Rodrigo, who you may be familiar with as the song Driver's License, which topped the charts super quick. So Olivia takes home 3 Apple Music Awards. That's pretty incredible. Breakthrough Artist of the Year, Album of the Year, and Song of the Year. Songwriter of the Year goes to HER, which is fantastic because HER is a fantastic songwriter. Artist of the Year in Africa goes to WizKid. Artist of the Year in France, Aya Nakamura. Artist of the Year in Germany, Rin, although that might be RIN. Artist of the Year in Japan, official, I'm not sure how to pronounce that. And the list goes on. There are different award winners everywhere. It says, I want to read about the award itself. Apple designed a series of physical awards that represent the extraordinary craftsmanship integral to creating music. Each award features Apple's custom silicon wafer suspended between a polished sheet of glass and a machined and anodized aluminum body. The result of this multi-month process, before it is sliced into hundreds of individual chips, is stunning and distinctive in a symbolic gesture. The same chips that power the devices that put the world's music at listeners' fingertips sit at the very heart of the Apple Music Awards. So Tim Cook said, hey, we got some extra silicon that we can't make use of because there are flaws in it. Can we do something with that? And Apple Music said, let's turn them into awards. No, I kid. Although I imagine that those silicon wafers may have been the ones that got, they weren't quite good to go inside of an iPhone. But that's a really, really, really cool award that they got there. And then, Rosemary, I was hoping you could tell us quickly about the Swift Playgrounds news.
Yeah, so there's not a lot to mention here, but for people who don't remember, WWDC this year, Apple announced that Swift Playgrounds for iOS is becoming a lot more like Xcode, where you're going to be able to write iOS and iPadOS and watchOS applications on your iPad, which of course is fabulous for those people who don't have a Mac or aren't willing to invest in a Mac to see whether or not they really like writing iOS applications. And I'm looking forward to it coming. And it's officially in beta for developers. So some select developers have been asked to test this out. Sadly, I'm not one of them, but that's a good thing because you are not allowed to really talk about this. It's under a non-disclosure agreement. But 9to5Mac did manage to get some screenshots of this. And I have to say, I'm kind of excited. It looks like Swift Playgrounds and Xcode had a little baby coding application. And, this seems like it's going to be really great, especially for people who are students who are looking to get into this sort of thing, but maybe a Mac is just too high a price point for them. So, fingers crossed that's going to be out in the not too distant future and I can have a real play with it.
Awesome. All righty, folks, I can hear the music. It's time for Shortcuts Corner. time. Shortcuts Corner. This is the part of the show where we discuss shortcuts. That's right. You write in with your shortcuts requests, and the shortcuts expert, Rosemary Orchard, provides an answer. The first person writing in today is Van. Van, to those of you who've been longtime listeners of iOS Today, will be familiar. Van is the person who invented the, as Leo and I called it, the Van maneuver, which was a way to use the iPad Magic Keyboard as a better method for placing your iPad in sort of an easel position. So you would use the sort of space in the keyboard to place the bottom of the iPad, and then it would rest back onto the Magic Keyboard itself, and that way it would lay a little bit flatter, and you'd be able to have it in kind of an easel method, or an easel orientation, which made it easier to write with your Apple Pencil. So, Van, thank you for the Van maneuver. Let's see what we've got here. On my Mac, Monterey, of course, I am successfully using the save file command in my shortcuts to save folders and files locally. However, the same save file command does not work when it is pointed to a network location on my network attached storage. I don't get an error and the shortcut seems to work, but nothing is written to the target destination. I have the target folder mounted when I have tried this, and files can be copied to the target location using Finder. I suspect I am missing something obvious. In short, should the save file shortcut command be able to write to network attached storage? Any suggestions? This is from Van.
Well, this was a tricky one, and I spent quite a bit of time debugging, playing with things, trying things out on iOS, then on my iPhone when it didn't work on my iPad, just making sure that it wasn't, a device-specific problem. And in short, basically what I want to do is I want to call out to all of our listeners, because Shortcuts for Mac is still kind of new, and this seems to be something that is just missing as a feature, but I think it's the exact sort of thing that third-party app developers will be implementing in their apps. So if you know of an app with a shortcuts action that will let Van save a file to network attached storage, so that would probably be via FTP, SFTP, maybe WebDAV, any of those keywords ringing a bell for any of you who have an app like that on your Mac that has a shortcut action, please can you write in and let us know, and we're going to tell Van about that, because right now Shortcuts natively does not support saving to network attached storage. So the good news is, Van, you're not going insane. Bad news is I don't know of a way to do this yet, but our listeners are a whole group of very smart and very connected people. I'm willing to bet that somebody in the not too distant future is going to have a solution for both of us on this, because I'd like to know that too. I will say, as a little workaround on iOS, I use a great app called File Explorer Pro, but of course that's not available on the Mac right now. So yes, sorry about that, but hopefully somebody's going to have an answer for you soon.
Yes, fingers crossed. All right, the next bit of question comes from Chris. Chris writes in, I was wondering, is there a way to turn the space heater on based on the temperature of my house? I have a Nest thermostat connected to HomeKit via Homebridge, so I'm hoping I can pull the temperature from the Nest. Bonus points if I can also tie it to me being home and my children being away, as they have their own iPhones. As an example, turn on the space heater in the master bedroom if the house is cooler than 63 degrees Fahrenheit, 17 degrees Celsius. Thank you, Chris. As measured by the Nest thermostat when I am home, but my children are not. Thank you, Chris.
Well, this was a little bit of a doozy, and it is actually only possible from iOS 15 onwards. So if you're running iOS 15, that's a really good start, because if you have iOS 15, then the good news is temperature triggers are available in Shortcuts. And of course, the Home app. I'm going to start by creating this in Shortcuts, but you could start in the Home app and it would work the same way. I'm just using the Shortcuts app because that's where we are. We're in Shortcuts Corner. So you start by creating a new automation, and then you use the option for a sensor detect something. And this is where you're going to pick your temperature sensor, which hopefully is shown from your Nest thermostat, which you've connected through Homebridge. Little reminder, Homebridge is the application or system that you can use to get some things into HomeKit which aren't HomeKit compatible, like a Nest thermostat. But it can also do some other things, which I'm going to mention in a moment. So when I create something based on the temperature, I can say when the temperature drops below a certain level. So say, for example, when my bedroom temperature sensor says that it's below 16 degrees, this is Celsius for everybody worrying that I'm about to freeze to death in the Siberia-like environment of my bedroom. This is Celsius. So then I can do this. And then, of course, I can turn something on. Now, I'm actually going to go ahead and I think I will actually turn on my hallway dehumidifier. This is the closest thing I've got to a space heater. So you select this and you select that it would turn on. You can give your automation a name. But what we need to do is also we need to make sure that this only runs when you're at home, Chris, and your kids aren't at home. Now, this is a little bit trickier. And I apparently have got a little crash here in Shortcuts. So I'm just going to close that and pop back into the automations. And it should be down here when the temperature drops. I have a lot of automations in my home, Mikah. I did not realize this. An awful lot here.
You?
Right, there we go. Yeah, me. I know it's crazy. So what we need to do is in the accessory section where you're choosing this, to start with, you're going to say people, and then you're going to say when I'm at home. Now, if you have multiple people in your house, there should also be the option for when anyone is at home. But you are going to want, Chris, to use the when I am at home option. And so, this is how we get started. And that's pretty cool. But I think we can do a little bit better because you want to know whether or not your kids are at home. And this is a bit trickier, but we can still do this. And the way to do this is using Homebridge and a great feature called dummy sensors. Unfortunately, my dummy sensor for anyone is offline, but I've created a sensor for various people. And I've only got anyone here, unfortunately, at the moment because I'm demoing. But what you can do is if you create a dummy switch for every single person, and then you create 2 automations for that. So you have an automation for when this person leaves home, then their switch gets turned off. And when they come home, their switch is turned on. And this should let you know whether or not your children are at home. So I'm going to use my anyone as an example. So you're going to need to duplicate this logic a little bit, but I'll show you how to do that. So what we want to do is we want to get the state of our home in this shortcut. And then we are going to get the state of the person. Now, I'm actually going to get the state of my bedside lights for this because as we can see, this isn't responding. But if we just say if the power state of this, then that works perfectly. And we also want to repeat this. So if you tap on the icon on the left, you can duplicate this. And then we're going to, I guess, well, I can use a different one. I will actually use my overhead light in my bedroom for this one. Perfect. So I can get the power state of my bedroom overhead light. And what we will do is, first of all, we'll check if one of the kids is home. Okay, so that's my bedside lamp. One of your children is briefly my bedside lamp. Apologies to them. I'm not attempting to dehumanize them, but this is what we've got to work with. Okay, so we're going to check if this child is home. Okay, so if this child is home, well, we don't really care actually. So I'm just going to copy this, or rather I'm going to duplicate my if statement and I'm going to move this. We don't want to inside the if because that is somebody is at home. And I'm just going to put a little comment box in there. And I wish I could share this shortcut, but you cannot share HomeKit shortcuts. So I will just pop this in here. Child 1 is at home. And there we go. We have a little note so that people will know. And then we'll check for child number 2. So what I will do, I'll move the bedroom overhead, that's your second child, whoever they are, into here. And then I just need to clear this and make sure, tap on this and select a magic variable. There we go. And then if this one. So now we have child number 1 is not at home. And then if I'll just duplicate this and move this one down. We know that if we fall into the start of this if, and I'm struggling to drop this. There we go. Then we know that child number 2 is at home. And people watching going, wait, how does she make the keyboard go white and move the cursor? That's 2 fingers on the keyboard. If you put 2 fingers on your keyboard and drag backwards and forwards, then you can easily move the cursor, which makes quickly editing something a little easier. So we know that child number 2 is at home. So then inside this otherwise, that's when you turn on the space heater for you, dehumidifier for me. So that is how you do that. Hopefully you've caught that, Chris. Feel free to hit the rewind button, watch the video of this. I hope it helps. But that is how I would solve that. So you'll need to use the dummy switch plugin for Homebridge to create 2 switches for your children so that you know whether or not they are at home. But trust me, you can use those in a lot of other automations too. That's how I would solve that. I'm really glad Chris already said he had Homebridge, because I was thinking, oh gosh, how do I do this? Because Find My doesn't have actions to check if people are at a certain location. And of course, there isn't even an option to use the Find My stuff inside of shortcuts. So it's a bit tricky, but I think we have a workaround for this.
Awesome. And then last but not least in Shortcuts Corner is a little bit of a demo to prepare you for December, which starts in 1 day as we record the show.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And this is something that came up when I was talking to a friend of mine. They wanted holiday wallpaper on their phone for every day in December. And I thought, well, let's make this a bit fancier. So what I've done is I have a whole folder full of wallpaper, basically. So I'm just going to open this up one moment. I thought I had this open before. Oops, there it is. And so what I have is inside of my shortcuts folder in iCloud. So this is on my iPhone. It's on my iPad as well. I have a folder called iPhone and a folder called iPad. And if I go into the iPhone folder, then I can see, and these ones are quite old. I've had these for a long time, but I've got, some random pretty holiday images here, which could be used as an iPhone background. And I've created a little shortcut, and I'm going to share this one in the show notes. So what I've got a holiday wallpaper folder, and then inside the holiday wallpaper folder, I've got a folder for my iPhone and a folder for my iPad, because then I can run the same shortcut on my iPhone and on my iPad, and I can get my device model and find out, is this an iPhone or is this an iPad? And then I can get the contents of this folder, and I can grab a random item, and then I can set a wallpaper. And you can choose to set your lock screen or your home screen wallpaper. I'm just going to set my lock screen wallpaper. And it will show you a preview before it does this. You can turn that off if you like. And then it's going to delete this. So it's going to get a random one, and then it's going to delete it. So make sure you've got a backup of these before you run this. But it means that you get a not completely true random. So just like shuffling in iTunes attempts to give you all of the different songs in the shuffle list before it loops back to the beginning, this, by deleting that wallpaper, is going to make sure that you don't get the same wallpaper twice in December. And so now if I run this, then it will crash. But if I run this again, then it should work. It's having a little difficulty right now because I was messing with some shortcuts things earlier, but this will give you a different wallpaper for every day in December. And of course, you can use this throughout the year for anything that you like, but I just thought that might be a fun thing to share.
That is neat. And of course, the link will be there for people to check out. Exactly. One quick bit of feedback this week before we head into our app caps. Ray is replying to give us some follow-up on the messages issue that they're having. You may remember Ray was saying, hey, I want to be able to respond to a message on my iPhone, but I'm having trouble because it seems to need to be unlocked in order to do so. And so Rosemary and I went through some different stuff to try to get it working. And here's what Ray had to say. Hi, Mikah and Rosemary. Thanks for your solution. It works fine. I had the settings you recommended already, but it took the tap and hold advice to make it work. You both rock. Ray in Illinois. So what Ray was not doing was tapping and holding on that notification in order to trigger that little pop out that lets you send a response. Just simply tapping was not enough to get it to pop up and let them make a response. So Ray, so happy that the advice worked. Well, some of the advice worked there to get that working for you, and you are able to respond to those messages as you wish. All right, we have our app caps left, which means it's time to, well, put on our app caps. This is the part of the show where we wear caps atop our heads to honor our app caps. These are our app or gadget picks of the week that we have maybe been using for a long time or might be new. In any case, we want to share them with you because we think they're awesome. And so that is why we wear caps atop our head. Rosemary Orchard tell me about the cap atop your head, and then tell me about your app pick of the week.
Well, clearly, Mikah, you and I are both starting to feel that it's getting a bit chilly. I had to go to the optician's there, and I realized I needed a hat on my head. And this was the one I grabbed on the way out the door. It's a very, very pale pink color with some lovely little gems on it. It's, not too blingy, but it's got a little bit of sparkle, which is always appreciated at this time of year, especially because sparkles conveniently reflect the light back at car headlights. So this keeps my head nice and warm, helps keep me a bit safer. But my app cap today is not about making things safer. It's about making my life way easier, because I don't know about you, Mikah, but YouTube embeds in articles are fine. But oh my gosh, the picture-in-picture experience with a YouTube link from an article, it's terrible. Oh my gosh, it's so bad. I just, it feels like it never ever works. But there's a great app for $1.99 called Vinegar, which is here to clean it up. Vinegar is commonly used as a household cleaning product for those people not familiar. So this is a page on iMore, and this is a YouTube embed on the page. And because I've got Vinegar, I've got all of these great options where now I can just tap on it and I get picture-in-picture straight away. And it does just work for all of these things. And if I switch over to a different video, that one was an ad. Sorry, I turned off my ad blocker for this to make sure it works. Then I should, of course, get all of these things in, all of the picture-in-picture options wherever I am. So Vinegar basically just exists to make YouTube videos in articles better. And that is something which I feel like a lot of people probably want. You try and do this without Vinegar and it's horrible. So if you are on youtube.com, then it'll even show you a toolbar. So if I went to YouTube and I'm going to search for a certain person who has a great squirrel assault course, who I love watching this video again and again. Of course, it's taking me to the YouTube app because I do have that installed. But if I were to tap and hold, then I can copy this link, and then I should be able to just open my link. And then I even get a little toolbar on YouTube for this. Of course, it wants me to agree to all the privacy policies because I don't do this. And now you see up here, I have auto 360p, etc. This is using a native iOS option, and I now have picture-in-picture. So if I swipe away, I still got picture-in-picture. I can watch the squirrels running around everywhere, doing crazy things to try and get those walnuts. And it's brilliant. I love it. This cleans things up. And at $1.99, it is well worth it.
Worth it.
It is a very simple option. And it does remove in-video ads, which, of course, for us as people watching these is a great experience. But don't forget, of course, these creators are working hard. Those ads would be paying them. So maybe check out their Patreons if you are doing that. But this is a great experience. I love it. I actually enjoy having YouTube embeds in articles again on my iPad. It's great.
Yeah, I definitely just purchased that app. That's amazing. Very cool.
Yep.
All right. I am wearing a hat that I crocheted. Usually if I'm wearing one that I made, it's knitted because that's a little bit easier. But I have crocheted this hat. Long time listeners, watchers of iOS Today will be familiar. I made this one a long time ago, but I don't wear it very often. So yeah, that's the cap atop my head. And my app cap, I am very quickly becoming incredibly predictable, I've realized, because I keep finding these different games, and I kind of put games in quotes because it's kind of silly to call this game, but it is, that are all about sort of like building out ways to collect resources to make things. It's sort of a simulation game. It's sort of a resource management game. It's sort of a builder game. And it's a little Minecrafty in that way. And they continue to just capture my attention and, unfortunately, my time. But the latest one that I want to talk about is called Builderment. And it is available for free with in-app purchases for something I'll explain in a moment. This is a little game where you start out with a factory, or actually it's a research center. And in order to unlock new items to improve upon the research that you're doing, you have to collect resources. So I started out with this research center here in the middle, this thing with a blue sort of disco ball on top of it, and this set of trees over here. And this set of trees didn't originally have these extractors. The extractors were the first thing I made. You make extractors, which then will get the resources from the trees, and then you build conveyor belts to send those into the research center. And that gives you money. And then you can also set it up to research different items. So you can see the sort of research tree here for technology. So the first thing you learned to make was wood planks. Then you made wood frames, which let you make a smelter, which after that lets you improve upon the extractor to extract even more resources, and also to make copper wire, which from there lets you continue down the list. So in the beginning, it was just this little research center and my tiny little tree extractor. Now let me zoom out and show you how much I have built over time as I have continued to play this game and get better at creating factories. All of these lines that you can see on screen are all conveyor belts leading from different sort of factory segments and external resource areas that I've had to build out this way in order to harness the power, because some of these are sort of in a chain. So in order to make a coupler, for example, you have to have a certain kind of ingot. But in order to get the ingot, you have to have a certain kind of ore. So you take the ore and then you send the ore down. In fact, let me just, I'll show you just really quick. Each world that you make is unique, and you can see all of these little areas out here. These are where there are different resources available that I've had to create extractor factories and send in towards the center where I've got everything going on. But I'll show you one example of this wolframite ore, which makes the tungsten carbide ingot. So all the way out here is the wolframite deposit, and I've created all these conveyor belts that send in the resources. So they come down this way, and they go over to where I have my factory for creating the actual ore. Or no, I can't remember what this is. I think this is raw tungsten or something like that. From there, it gets mixed with cobalt in order to make the actual tungsten carbide, which is the final form. And then from there, I think right now, yes, I have it going in each one of these bars. I think it takes 2 bars at a time, 2 bars of tungsten carbide to make the coupler, so that all of these different factories are cranking out couplers, which are then finally going into my research center. Now, I'm currently in the process of trying to unlock faster conveyor belts. It takes 40,000 iron gears to get to this level of conveyor belt speed. You can see I've unlocked a lot of conveyor belt speeds because that's one of the things that kind of helps make things go along. So you can check out my huge area of my factory down here that is just devoted to making gears that are slowly but surely working their way. Oh, look, I don't have that currently going into my research center. So no wonder why that was taking so long. So down here, I've got all of these gears, and check it out. Not only that, but I've also got gears happening over here as well being built. Once you start to play the game, you will quickly realize that there's kind of a good way of making these production facilities. And once you do that, then you can start to kind of copy and paste, which makes it a little bit easier to quickly build out factories for creating different parts of the resources that you need. So you can see here, for example, each of these individual kind of three factory units are just a copy of each of them. So I just built one and then copy, paste, and then ran the conveyor belts to all of them. Now, I will say the game does have some problems. The main problem for me is that you have to have the game open in order for research to take place. So there's no, you literally have to I've had to turn off auto lock on my phone in order to keep the game open so that the research could take place, so that I could actually finish this thing while I wait for 40,000 iron gears to make their way into the factory. I wish the game would add a time away feature where maybe you get half of your resources while you're gone, or something like that. I don't mind if there's a cut, but something that lets me not have to just sit here and stare at it, because that's not fun. What's fun is actually building out these different pieces and, going and collecting the resources from different places and then realizing how you can sort of reorganize things to make it even better. I have completely deconstructed and reconstructed different parts of my factory over time. This, for example, which is currently making steel sheeting, used to be a mess, and I slowly turned it into this 3-unit production facility and that kind of thing. And then over time, you can make your factories faster. You can make the different individual segments run a lot faster. So yeah, if the game would allow us to sort of let things go while we're away, that would make the game all the better. But even with that, I still have had a lot of fun creating my factory over time, and I'm just about done with the game at this point. Available for free in the App Store. The in-app purchases let you buy gems, which you can then use. 100 gems will speed up. It will double your production. So you go 2 times as fast, and you'll also gain gold 2 times as fast. I just have used that as sort of a tip feature. I've gotten a lot out of this game in playing it, so I've bought a couple of the $1.99 gem packs because I want to thank the developer who made this game. And it was interesting because the developer did a story in the App Store recently. They were featured in a story in the App Store, and the developer said, there were several times where I didn't get this game finished with development because I would just get caught up playing it. So the developer had some trouble kind of stepping away from the game to actually finish the game, which I found hilarious and also very relatable. So that is Builderment. If you like that kind of style of game, the sort of incremental, researchy sim, then this is a game that's well worth checking out. It doesn't have ads and a whole bunch of if you want to upgrade to the latest version to the latest level faster, then watch this ad and spend $6.99 to never see an ad. None of that. It's just that one in-app purchase system, which again, I treat as more of a tip jar if you want to use it. But yeah, that's Builderment. Folks, that brings us to the end of this episode of iOS Today. If you have questions for us, you can send those to iostoday@twit.tv. That includes Shortcuts Corner requests as well as feedback and questions. iOS Today records live every Tuesday at 12 p.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. So you can tune in live to watch us record the show, twit.tv/live. But as we said earlier, the best way to get the show is by subscribing to the show, which you can do by going to twit.tv/iOS and clicking to subscribe to audio or video. We think the video version is the best version of the show, but we do try to be as descriptive as possible so that the audio version is equally enjoyable for you. You can click to subscribe across all different platforms, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, etc. And, that's, again, we think the best way to do it. Now, if you would like to support our shows and make sure we can continue to put these out there, help you with your questions, etc., well, you should check out Club Twit, because for $7 a month, you will be supporting Twit, but also with that, you get some goodies. You get every single one of Twitch shows ad-free. In fact, when you sign up, you kind of get your own little feed that you'll get in the system that you can copy and paste, and it will be the ad-free version of the show. You also get access to a members only Twit Plus bonus feed that has content you won't find anywhere else, and access to the members only Discord server, which is a place to go and chat with your fellow Club Twit members, but also those of us at Twit. A lot of us are in there. Rosemary's in there regularly in the iOS Today chat, having conversations. It's a great place to be, great place to hang out. And honestly, that warm, fuzzy feeling you get from subscribing or supporting us directly. twit.tv/clubtwit. We did hear some feedback that folks wanted to support shows directly and they weren't interested in sort of all that extra stuff. So we set up with Apple Podcasts a subscription for $2.99 a month. You can hop into Apple Podcasts. You find the audio version of the show and you'll see a little button you can tap to subscribe to the audio version. That will give you an ad-free version of the audio feed and you will be supporting the show individually if you'd like. Rosemary Orchard, if folks want to follow you online and check out all your great work, where do they go to do so?
Best place is over at rosemaryorchard.com, which has links to me and all the things I do online. And of course, it's got links to social media as well, where you can find me, often with the username Rosemary Orchard, which is where you can find me on Twitter. Micah, what about you?
I am at Micah Sargent on many a social media network, or you can head to chihuahua.coffee, CHIHUAHUA.coffee, where I've got links to the places I'm most active online. Thank you all for your time today. Thank you for tuning into the show. We appreciate you, and we can't wait to see you next week. Goodbye.
So you got yourself the brand new latest and greatest iPhone or Samsung smartphone because you heard about all of the beautiful photography those things can create, but for some reason, you're just not quite getting it done when you try to make your photos. Or you got yourself a brand new camera because you were interested in getting started in photography, but your little new inexpensive camera still isn't quite cutting it. Well, you need to check out my show, Hands-on Photography, here on Twit. I'm going to show you how to be a better photographer and a better post-processor, and quite frankly, just help you get the most out of that new camera that's either on your phone or the brand new one that you just got for your birthday or gifts or what have you. And it's going to be a lot of fun. So head on over to twit.tv/hop. That's twit.tv/HOP and subscribe today.